Jingle, jangle, jingle. Hear the sleigh bells ring. I am Hocus Kringle. I'm a king of jingling. I really cracked myself up. I'm a little late in making this video, so I'm hoping a Christmas thumbnail won't put too many people off. I'm not going to play any Christmas music in this video, but if you don't want to listen to me talk and you're still feeling in the holiday spirit, by all means, please turn me down and put on your favorites. My brother got married a couple weeks ago, and my duty was to provide the getaway car. The only stipulation from his fiance was that there were to be no cans rattling on the back. Otherwise, I had complete creative control. The first thing we're going to do on this decoration journey is give her a good bath. She's been sitting around for about 3 months, literally gathering dust, which you can see here on this shot. You can see there's just a film of it, and of course some leaves too. My cats have walked on it, and she's just dirty, so she needs to get cleaned up. There's also a couple of little imperfections that we're going to take care of, like the rubs from some tow wires, and this little modeling here on the hood. I'm lucky to live in a part of the country where I don't have to put my car away for the winter. I can get away with washing my car in the middle of December in shorts and a hoodie and not completely freeze my ass off. I'm also lucky that I get to drive it and not have to go through snow, at least most of the time. We do get snow sometimes, but not very often. I haven't been driving this car for the past 3 months because it's had a transmission issue. This is a 1960, and it's a numbers matching car. It has the original 36 horsepower motor in it, as well as the original split case transmission. I've had the car for about 15 years, and the transmission has always been very loud, but it has worked well. But a few months ago, third and fourth gear started making noises that I couldn't ignore anymore. And I got worried that if I kept driving it, that I would end up making it worse or damage something else that I hadn't thought about. And besides, it was just annoying. So she's been sitting around while I've been trying to figure out what I am going to do about my transmission problem. I considered going with a rebuilt swing axle unit and upgrading to a tunnel style transmission so that I can have a synchronized first gear. But something I just don't want to let go of the split case. And a friend of mine named Jason had a split case transmission sitting on his floor that I thought might be worth a try. I've got a video coming out about that soon. I tear it down, clean it up, and reseal it, and then I'll also video myself taking it out of this car and putting it back in. And hopefully it will do well. If you don't have an air compressor in your shop, I highly recommend that you get one. I went for a long time without having one, and now that I've got one, I could never go back. I like using it in particular for blowing out the cracks in between the running boards and the wheels so that water doesn't sit there and start rusting things. And it's an extremely helpful tool. Now we're going to move on to doing a few little tidying up tasks. First of them being getting the seal back in its place. I really like to use Sprayway as a lubricant. I use it when I install windows and seals like this. It doesn't leave residue, it foams and sort of washes, it can clean things, and it provides enough lubrication with the water to be able to move the rubber in. I also like using these wooden modeling tools to push the seals in. Now we're going to work on fixing this little blemish here. Something that I've never heard any of the paint channels that I've seen on YouTube talk about is a term called bag sweat. And that modeling that you see there is the industry. In the industry, they call that bag sweat. And it happens when you take the plastic film and you put it over sort of fresh paint, and it sort of like leaves a texture. And then this next one here, this is from one time that I had to tow this car with my tow bar, and the wires for the lights were rubbing on the hood. This particular repair didn't come out quite as nice as I would have liked it to. There's still a couple of scratches I went over it a couple of times, and it's better than it was, but it's still not exactly perfect. I really like using this tool here. It's a Air DA with a bunch of foam stuff that came from Amazon, I think. I'm really not much of a paint geek, in spite of having painted my own car. I like to paint, but doing the corrections process is something that I've always considered sort of tedious. I've got a little bit of extra paint left over, and so I mixed up just a itty bitty little bit to be able to do some chip touch ups. There were a couple of little rock chips on the hood, and they often get chipped on the drip rail. And then there's also a place on the roof where the roof rack rubbed when I had some wheels attached to it. And I didn't really want any of this to be perfect. I just wanted to be able to seal it up against any water getting under it and then lifting the paint back up. I also had an incident right after I got my roof rack where I had loosened the clamps on it and then forgot that I loosened them and then left and drove off, and at about 45 miles an hour it flew off, and I saw it in my rearview mirror, and luckily it didn't do too much damage to the car or to the rack, just some scrapes and scratches. The worst of which was on top of this tail light here. It gouged it really pretty good, but fill it in with some paint and it'll be fine.
This is very, very dangerous.
Dangerous and not very effective, as you'll see in a moment. This is just a Sharpie mark that I'm not exactly sure where it came from. And I've had good luck using acetone in the past to get it off, and it does help get some of it off, but it's not perfect. It also has a tendency to melt the actual paint, which is why it's dangerous and why you have to be really careful. Now let's do some fun stuff. When I painted this car, I thought about putting a red pinstripe on the wheels because I thought it would be a good accent. But at the time, I was worried that it would look a little bit too Christmassy. And now I get to sort of put that into action because I want it to look Christmassy. I found this fine line kit on Amazon. You can get them in a bunch of different colors, and I thought it would be a good way to add some red highlights to the car. It came with about 6 different widths, and it was a lot of fun figuring out what the right look was. I really like the heavy stripe on the inside of the wheel there. It looks really nice. I also thought that it would be cool to put sort of a pinstripe on the car, and this turned out in a way that I really kind of like. Even though it's trim, like the red pinstripe accent on it looks really nice. I was also worried about it flying off in the wind, but luckily I was able to tuck it all in, and it's stayed so far. This little piece of trim here has been the bane of my existence. The last clip on there on the right has always been loose, and I've messed with it several times to try to get it right, and I just cannot seem to get it to stick right. So if anyone has a solution for that, I'd appreciate it. I have a feeling that part of the problem is that hole on the right for the clip is a little bit larger than it's supposed to be because I had to make a repair there. And also the clips are reproduction, and they just don't seem to be shaped in quite the right way. So here's a look at the whole car after all of our little red highlights are added. It's amazing how much a little dash of color can change the look of a car. I sort of want to keep some of the red on the wheels, but it does just look too Christmassy to me, so I think it will just be a temporary thing. And of course, no vintage car that's going to go out for Christmas would be complete without a roof rack on it. Am I right, or am I right? There's the most important element of decorating your car for Christmas has to be the roof rack. And I think everybody knows where I'm going to be going with this. When I was gathering ideas for what I could use to decorate the car and make it look the way I wanted it to, I hit up pretty much every big box store that's around me to see what they had on offer for Christmas decorations. And one of the things that I found that I really liked were these little battery powered LED string lights. And I thought they would look really cool if they were sort of tacked up on the inside of my car on the headliner, and they really came out nice. They provide a really nice little ambiance, and I love the colors, and they also flash, and they look really cool, especially at night. Um, I I'm tempted to find some that aren't colored and use them just sort of in regular because it's just a nice little touch. Whenever you decorate, there's always a fine line between too much and too little. And with this fine line tape, I kept going back and forth between like maybe this is too much, maybe it's not enough. I don't know, but I had this idea of what if I wrapped the rear view mirrors as a candy cane, and I just couldn't get it out of my head, and so I decided I would try it, and I really liked it quite a lot. Um, my car originally had the option of having the little pear-shaped uh, side view mirror, and it didn't originally come with the passenger mirror, but I'm a fan of symmetry, and so I added the passenger mirror to it. And the passenger mirror is comically long because it has to be in order to be able to for you to be able to see it from the driver's seat with these cars. Binder clips come in handy for so many different tasks. Going back to what I said earlier about using too much tape, I considered putting the red tape on the garnishing on the trim on the running boards, but decided that it would be a little bit too much. So instead, I opted to use this silvery garland, and I think it worked out pretty nice. The last little bit of this that I wanted to do was the bumpers, and you can see there in the beginning that I bought some pre-made garland that was the real stuff, and when I started trying to put it on, it shed everywhere and it didn't look right, and I just didn't feel like it was going to turn out well, so I scrapped that idea. And instead I went for wrapping the towel bar with some very festive looking ribbon, and then later I use some fake garland to wrap around the rest of the bumper, like so. And then as a final finishing touch to the front bumper, I decided that no car would be complete without some jingle bells. I found this circle of bells that I thought would look really cool, sort of hung from the front bumper guards. I used some welding wire in place of safety wire, and then my cool little safety wire spinner there, so I could make sure they were good and attached. And then we move to the rear bumper, where I do basically the same thing as the front. Wrap it around with some ribbon and then some fake garland to sort of cap it off. And I just want to mention while we're here that I do have these bumper stickers that say "Save them all," which is my the Beetle Factory motto. And if you're interested, get in touch with me. I'll try to make it easier in the future. I'm just getting started with this, so I'm not exactly sure how to sell things online. But I do have them, and would be happy to send you one if you'd like one. If you're still here and you're enjoying the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you'd throw me a little like and maybe even a little subscribe, and maybe even leave me a comment and tell me how I'm doing. It's looking good, but it's missing something. think that's what it was missing, don't you? When I went out to get my tree, I was hoping that I would get someone who would think that my car was cool, or would like think that it was cool that they were getting to put a tree on a vintage car. I'm regularly humbled by how much people don't care about old cars. And in fact, the guy that helped me with the tree was super nice, but his he basically only said this is great because most of the time I have to stand on a ladder to get it on people's cars. So I guess that's the only special thing about this one. I was hoping that when I took the tree off and let it sit in water overnight, that I would get sort of a dramatic, like, revival or something, but that didn't really happen. I found these string lights on Amazon, and they worked really well. I used two strands, and then I used a battery pack to power them, and I put the battery pack inside of one of the boxes that I had on top. And here you can see that I was like sort of arranging the boxes, and I didn't want to bore anybody with watching me wrap them, so here they are wrapped. And now we've come full circle. Jingle, jangle, jingle. Hear those sleigh bells ring. I am Opus Kringle. I'm a king of jingling. So here we are with the final product. I think that it turned out pretty nice. It looks exactly as festive as I would like it to without looking too over the top. I used a flocking spray on the rear window so that we could write "Just Married," and it just really turned out great, I think.
Thank you.
With the lights on at night, it looked really, really special. My brother was also able to get the car in gear and pull off without stalling there at the very end to whisk his new bride away, and it was just the best ending I could have hoped for. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, and maybe even think about subscribing. It'd be kind of nice. And I've got lots of really cool VW stuff coming in the next year, hopefully. We've got the Gia to finish. I've got a gold Sunbug to finish. And yeah, we're going to be doing lots of cool stuff. So if you like this video, stick around. If you like Frank would appreciate a like or a subscribe. And yeah.